You don't have to go the traditional Western medicine route. You don't have to do that.
Sometimes we just choose to stay stuck.
You don't have to put yourself through that stress. It's awful and it's miserable, and there's a whole nother way. When I was doing the fertility medication, taking like the traditional fertility medicine, and I didn't really think I needed it. And she was like, well, you're supposed to be on that for the rest of your life. And I was like, you want me to be on that for the rest of my life? I'm 26 years old. That's insane.
And that goes to just demonstrate how broken our system is.
It's a lot of stress on your body. It's a lot of stress on your mind. It's just killing me, killing my soul. Like, I can't do it.
That's what it's about right there, is the ability to have a choice. Welcome to Prescribing the Truth. I'm Dr. Nichole Morris, a Catholic naturopathic doctor and natural fertility expert. Around here, we don't just accept the mainstream narrative, we question it. My goal with every episode is to share the love of Jesus with you and empower you to make informed, confident decisions for you and your family. So grab a cup of tea, get comfy, maybe even throw on your tin hat, and let's dive in. Welcome back to Prescribing the Truth. I have a very exciting guest with me today. My friend, now team member, former client, Lizzie Walls. Welcome. Thanks for joining me today, Lizzie.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's an honor to have you here. So, Lizzie and I have known each other, gosh, how long now, Lizzie?
Connor is going to be 7 in March. So almost 7, like 6.5 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. 7 years. I've had the honor of knowing Lizzie. Lizzie started out as a client in my one-on-one program, and I'll let her share a little bit of her story about that. Then she came into our fertility program, and now she works with us on our team, and it's just been a really great evolution and such a beautiful friendship, and I'm really, really happy to have you here. So, we're going to dive in. We're going to talk about a lot of different things tonight. Hopefully we can bring a little bit of hope to anybody listening that is struggling with infertility and, even maybe parenthood, right? Just some things that they're walking through. And Lizzie's just such an inspiring person, and she always just has such great wisdom to share. But I thought I would share like the real OG story of really how we met. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. So,
That's funny.
I'll let you get into the part about Connor, but when I first opened my practice, I got a call from somebody. How'd you find me, Lizzie?
Okay, so she said she went to school with you, but I was friends with her and asked her opinion on any local doctors that were kind of like, had our morals and like, as far as healthcare goes, that we had the same views on.
Yeah,
and she recommended you. So
in comes Lizzie into my office when I have my brick and mortar when I first start. And then in comes her husband, and I like take a double look, and I'm like, I know you. And come to find out, Lizzie's husband and I went to homecoming together our freshman year of high school. So I've known her husband, Johnny, for a long time. And in comes Lizzie. So I'm going to let Lizzie let you dive in and kind of share like, where did we start in this journey? Or where did you start in the journey, and kind of go from there in terms of health and fertility?
Yeah. So I think I started mostly, like, I have a lot of family members who are pretty holistic in their healthcare views. And so I just grew up with that. And my husband and I were struggling to get pregnant a couple years after we got married, and we wanted to start having kids, and we were really struggling through that. And so we did walk through the typical Western medicine fertility journey, I guess you could say, as far as a fertility doctor, taking like the traditional fertility medicine, Clomid. It's just pretty hard to walk through. Like, just, it's a lot of stress on your body, it's a lot of stress on your mind. And after a couple of rounds with working with them, we had decided like, this is just not for us. Like, this, it's just killing me, killing my soul. Like, I can't do it. And, I asked my husband at the time, I was like, well, what are we going to do? Like, we want kids. I just said, what are we going to do? And he said, we're going to adopt. And I said, okay. And from the minute, like, we both said that, I had so much peace. Like, it just like fell over my body. I had so much peace that like I could stop putting stress on myself and my body, and I could relax. And like, I finally saw that like one day we're going to have a baby. And so we did work with an adoption agency. Like from that moment on, we found an adoption agency. We had family friends who had adopted. And so we spoke with them to find a really like reputable agency. And from the day that we had contacted them to the day that we ended up getting the call about our son was 1 year. And
Exactly?
like almost exactly with
Oh, I never knew that.
yeah, like with a week in between. It was almost exactly.
Yeah.
Which was
Amazing.
wild.
Yeah.
So we got that call, and from there I was like, oh my gosh, like we need a doctor. And like I never really went to the doctor because I did a lot of stuff for myself. So I'm like, I don't know where to go. And that's when I had reached out to my friend, and I'm like, hey, you know, you and I kind of share the same beliefs. Do you know anybody that maybe I could take him to? Like, you already have kids. Where do you go? And she didn't live in the area, but she said, I'm pretty sure there's a naturopathic doctor in your area that I went to school with. And so she gave me your name, and I contacted you and met up with you from there. So that's how I came to find you. And I'm so glad I did. And then after Connor, I started sharing your name with my family. And I had family members that worked with you through a program just for general health, and saw what wonders that did for them. And so fast forward to like a year or two later, and we're talking about wanting more kids. And so we're thinking, do we adopt again? And actually, it was my sister-in-law who was like, you should work with Dr. Morris, like for you, and see if she can help you. Then that's why I talked to John. I'm like, what do you think? And he's like, well, we might as well try it. And I remember talking with you for like our first call, and you asked me when, like, what's your goal and like your timeline when you want to get pregnant. And I was like, well, I guess before I die, but like I'm okay with at the end of this, as long as I'm healthy and happy. Like trying the other way was miserable. So I'm happy with adopting always if that's what God wants for me. But, you know, this just seems like a much better option on seeing like maybe we can get pregnant.
That's such a beautiful part of your journey, I think, too, Lizzie, is that when you got to the point where you guys were ready to try to conceive again, you didn't have like a timeline in mind, right? And that's so hard, I think, for so many of the women that we work with that are going through this journey, not to have this like hard stop of like, it has to happen by then, right? Your nervous system was in a calm enough state where you could literally just say like, before I die, like, I just want to have another baby, like whenever the time is, whenever God allows for that, right? And you came into this process with a peace that allowed you to be more successful, or to be successful faster, because you were already in a safe state in terms of your nervous system.
Yeah, I agree. I think like I can see from their perspective, like when it was me and I hadn't adopted yet, and I thought like, oh my gosh, I am running out of time. Like it has to be now. And so I see it from their perspective. And I think because I had Connor already, that it kind of allowed me to like take a step back and realize like, okay, I have a kid, and I can do this without it being like me biologically doing it myself. So, you know, I can take the pressure off of myself. Like either way, we'll get through it. So I can see their perspective. And I think like having Connor first definitely helped me to just chill and be like, yes.
I think that brings up another really interesting perspective. And I don't know that this is actually a perspective that you and I have talked about before, but when you joined the program, you weren't necessarily in a state of secondary infertility because you hadn't, you know, biologically had a child before, but it kind of was like this. I don't want to equate it to the same because it's not the same, right? But you had a child, right? And you knew it was possible to adopt again. But I think that this is similar situation to women who are experiencing traditional secondary infertility, right? They've had one baby and now they want another and they're trying and it's difficult. And it's easy for us to say like, oh, it's not as hard when it's secondary infertility. But I don't necessarily think that that's always true for all of our clients and all women, right? It's sometimes, I think, harder in a secondary infertility state when it's truly secondary infertility, right? Because women are feeling like in the dark, ignored by their doctors. You know, a lot of times they're going to their provider and their provider's like, oh, you've already had one baby. You'll get pregnant again. Just keep trying. Or they don't feel like they can have a voice and be sorrowful. How do you say that word?
Sorrowful.
Be sad. And they can be sad because they already have a baby, right? Like they feel shame about feeling sad, but that's not what it's about, right? Like you can still be sad and still have that desire. And, you know, maybe that wasn't exactly, you know, what you're describing as your experience. I just kind of want to throw that in there for women that are listening and thinking like, oh, I'm going through secondary infertility and I don't feel the same piece about it that Lizzie did. And that's okay, right? It can be really difficult, but I think your perspective is really beautiful and that like you were able to be rooted and grounded and knowing like this is God's plan for me and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And actually that brings up something too, like, even though we had adopted Connor, I was just telling somebody this too, like, I still had that yearning to feel pregnancy and like feel like what birthing a child was like and do all of the like traditional, like mother things. And there was that little piece of me, which I know is a lie, like totally a lie, that I didn't feel as much of a mother truly because I didn't birth a child myself. I don't know what like, it's almost like that rite of passage. Like you were pregnant and you birthed a baby and like, you're a mother. Well, I didn't have any of that. And so I had that like little bit of a lie in my head saying like, well, you're not as much of a mother because you didn't get to do that. And so, and like in nursing a baby, you know, I didn't nurse Connor. And so, I had that feeling and I thought, you know, I do really want to experience that. So, if I can't, I can't. And I was at peace with that. And, you know, I still just wanted to feel that if I could. I couldn't live without trying, I guess is what I was feeling. So,
yeah. And to validate that too, for anyone listening, if that's you and you're feeling that, like, you don't have to feel guilty for feeling that way, right? Like, it's so valid as a female, as a woman to instinctually want to experience that, right? And it doesn't make you any less of a mother. We know that, right, Lizzie? But if you're walking through that journey, it's also, you don't have to feel guilty for feeling that way. It's a totally valid way to feel.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I would like, so a lot of, I think what helped me after having Connor is, that like I could just focus on my health and like, and that's how I put it to myself is like, I'm just going to focus on my health and I want to be the healthiest version of me for the child that I have now. And so that is like, truly, that was the program. Like, even if not for fertility, that was the program that I needed to be in because I didn't think, honestly, like I wanted to be very holistic, but like my diet was trash. Like a lot of things that I was doing were just kind of trash. And so I wasn't the healthiest version of myself. And so going through the program, I truly needed it just for me because I thought, you know, I'm going to pass this wisdom down to my kids and they're going to have a better start because they're going to know all of this information that now I know on how to be the best version of me health-wise. So I was really just looking at it that way. Like I wanted to revamp like myself. And so I felt so good after the program. Like I felt great. I felt healthy. And I think 12 weeks, right? The program was 12 weeks. And then I was honestly like a little bit afraid to try. And I thought I'm just going to give myself a little bit of time. I'm not going to put that pressure on myself. I'm not going to say like, oh, the program's done. We're trying now. So like we just kind of continued on with life and I kind of continued on just doing the things that I learned through your program. I think it was November And it was my sister-in-law again, actually, who was like, I just feel like you're going to have a baby soon. And I was like, really? That's so weird. And she's like, I don't know. I just have a feeling. And so I was like, I do feel like, I feel like I'm ready to try now. Like I feel like I could handle that devastation if, we try and I'm not pregnant again. And so it was November that we had tried for the first time and then found out the next month that I was in fact pregnant, and I couldn't believe it. Like that was the first time that we had tried since the program. And I thought like, this just isn't real. So that was amazing.
Yeah. So we ran things quite differently.
Yeah.
How old's Freya? Lizzie, how long ago was that?
Oh, she's going to be 4 at the end of the month.
4. So that was like 5 years ago, right? So
yeah,
we ran our program quite different 5 years ago than we do now, all for the better, of course.
Or 2020.
So 2020. Yeah. So 5 years, right? So at the time, the way that we ran our program was like a 12-week crash course, essentially. It's very, very different now. We're supporting our clients, husband and wife, for an entire year, which is a really beautiful thing. And we can chat more about that. But I would love to hear, Lizzie, like what inspired you to say like that you wanted to join the fertility formula and that this was the next best step for you?
Well, I mean, I just knew that this was going to be my best chance at, I didn't want to go through the other route again. I already knew what that was. I already knew what that felt like. And it did not feel like, it just didn't feel wholesome. Like I didn't feel good on that. My mind was not where it should be. Like, and I have a kid now, so I have to also be like mentally present for them. And I knew that doing things naturally was going to be way better for me and my family. And it wasn't going to be putting the stress on my body. I mean, like when I was doing the fertility medication, like I had to be in Troy at 6 a.m. I don't even remember how many times I had to do that, like a week or a month, but over an hour away during morning traffic, I was up so early and I was just exhausted. So that was not going to happen again. I wasn't going to do that. So that's why I thought, you know what, I already know this doctor. I trust her with my kid. So I'm going to try this. Like, this is going to be my best option. And I already loved working with you. So I thought, this is just going to be great. I loved working with you. So
was there anything you were skeptical about in the beginning? Like, did you think it was going to work?
I didn't know. I was not like, oh yeah, this is going to work. I was just, and I honestly think that was like me just kind of guarding myself a little bit, where I was like, I'm not going to get my hopes up and be like, oh yeah, this is going to work, because like, well, if it doesn't, maybe I'm really letting myself down. So I think that's why I was telling myself, like, if anything, I'm going to be so healthy and I'm going to feel so great. And that's what I want. So like, yeah, I think I was guarding myself a little bit.
And that's a self-protective mechanism, right? And that's okay. I love when clients come into our environment, into the fertility formula, because they want a baby, right? That's the number one goal. But I always am having conversations on outside of getting pregnant, having a baby, what else do you want? What other health goals do you have? Because there's all this healing we have to do on the way to getting pregnant. Like, you can't just come into this program and think like, oh, I'm just going to get pregnant. We're not going to work on anything else. Like, it doesn't work that way, right? We have to work on health and improving overall health. And then conception comes as a result of improved overall health. And I think sometimes women miss that piece, or sometimes they think they want that, but the conventional medical model can't provide that. It doesn't have the capacity to provide that. So we're skipping all of this foundational health and we're just going right to what your experience was, Lizzie. Clomid, letrozole, trigger shots, IUI, down the line. So I think, it's valid to say, I want to self-protect my mental health, right? By saying like, okay, I'm just here to get healthy. And at the same time, like knowing like the end goal is conception, but we have to work on all of this basic foundational. And maybe it's not basic and foundational. Maybe it's stealth infections. Maybe it's mold or parasites or any of the things that we need to work on the way.
Right. Which those things we didn't even dive into back then. It was just like you said, foundational things that I was not doing them until I learned about them.
What do you think was the most surprising or eye-opening thing that you learned or had to change while you were going through the program?
Truly diet. I know it's big. Like, I know it's a big thing now, but back then I didn't really think about it as being such a big deal. And I mean, I had terrible eczema also. Like, my hands were really bad, and I was starting to get it like on the back of my leg, and I couldn't believe that like it was gone. Like, it was just gone. Like, I didn't have it anymore. I still don't have it on my hands anymore. And I'm amazed at, like, you know, when I start eating bad again, I see it come back. And then when I stop, I see it go away. And that was the most amazing thing. I was like, oh my gosh, it didn't even change that much. I just stopped eating a couple things, added in a couple better things instead. And my eczema.
And that was your food intolerances, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And sugar. Sugar's not my food intolerance, but I know when I eat like processed sugar, I feel itchy. So that was the most definitely surprising for me.
I think also worth noting too is that you were a hairdresser at the time when you were trying to get pregnant, right? And for a time after that. So not to say like if you're a hairdresser, you can't get pregnant. We know lots of hairdressers that are pregnant, right? But there's a lot of chemical exposure when you are dyeing people's hair and doing all the other things that you were doing all the time, right? And working in the salon and using all the hair products and things. And we know that those are environmental toxins, right? They're xenoestrogens. They mimic estrogen in the body. So I think, Lizzie, we did a lot of work with you to support detox and take care of your liver. And I think, if I remember correctly, we also really focused on your thyroid. I think that when you came to me, if I remember correctly, your TSH, which is the signal from your brain to your thyroid, was 4.2 or 4.8. It was just like right above 4, right? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah. And so that's that's like almost within normal range of a conventional thyroid range, but that's not in range in the holistic world when you're trying to conceive, right? We want that TSH under 2. And so I looked at that right away and I was like, well, this is like glaringly obvious of something that we need to do is work on supporting your thyroid, right? So just to demonstrate the different avenues that we need to support someone when they're trying to conceive, right? Like diet was a big piece, environmental toxins was a big piece, thyroid support was a big piece, stress management was a big piece. So I always say like there's 6 horses that pull the cart. And we can't just pick one and hyper focus on it. We got to support all of these things at the same time, right?
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned the thyroid, because when I was starting to work with you and I had gone to my primary care doctor for labs, and she did a telehealth visit with me because it was 2020 at the time. And she was like, oh, you're on Synthroid. I was on Synthroid. Well, I wasn't on it at the time, but I was prescribed it through the fertility clinic that I was going to originally. And she was like, are you not taking that anymore? And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, well, how come? And I said, well, I only was on it from the fertility clinic, and I stopped after I started going there because I didn't really think I needed it. And she was like, well, you're supposed to be on that for the rest of your life. And I was like, you want me to be on that for the rest of my life? I'm 26 years old. That's insane. Yeah. And I'm like, and she was one telling me that my thyroid levels were fine, and she didn't see a need to order any other thyroid labs because I was technically in the normal range. And I was just blown away. I couldn't believe it. And she also told me not to get my hopes up and put all my hopes and dreams in this natural doctor, is what she said. And I was like, okay, I'll remember that.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Fertility Formula Masterclass. My team and I have helped hundreds of married couples conceive naturally without IUI or IVF. If you're struggling to get pregnant or stay pregnant and have been told there are no other options, don't stop searching. There is hope, and finding the root cause is key. If you want to learn more about how we can support you on your journey to motherhood, head over to drnicholemorris.com, and don't forget, Nicole has an H in it. All right, let's get back to the show. It's really mind-blowing to think, right? You're 26 years old and your primary care provider is telling you when your thyroid is like not that out of balance, right? That you're going to be on this medication for the next 50 or 60 years of your life. Like that's just bananas. And that goes to just demonstrate how broken our system is and how an alternative perspective is so needed. So we know the system is broken, right? And that's why we're here. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. And we're so happy to have you supporting our clients too, Lizzie. But before we dive into that, just describe for me what it was like the moment that you found out that you were pregnant.
Oh, that was such a moment. So earlier in the day, I was working at the salon. It was Friday. I remember everything so clearly. I was working at the salon. I had the weirdest, twinge, pain in my, uterus area. And I was like, ooh, that's so weird. I've never felt that before. And I was supposed to start my cycle that day. And I thought, I don't know. And I the whole rest of the day, I just kept thinking, I don't know. I feel like I need to test. I need a test and I need to see. And so I got one on the way home from work, and it was late that night. And my husband had just decided to go and see a friend that night. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. I'm working a little later. And so I get home and I take the test, and I kind of just set it to the side, and I'm just sitting there thinking while I'm waiting. And then I looked at it, and I saw it, and I just kind of put my hand over my mouth. I couldn't believe it. I just started tearing up, and I was just like, this can't be real. This can't be real. And I'm just sobbing. And I called my friend, and I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And she was like, what? And I'm sobbing still. I really think I'm pregnant. I don't know. I took a test and it looks positive. And then, it was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. And then of course my husband was gone all night, and I was waiting for him to get home to tell him, and he couldn't believe it either. But it was just such a magical moment. I was just thanking God. I couldn't believe it. I kept saying that.
Yeah. Such a magical moment. And really, we didn't outline this, but you and Johnny tried for 7 years before you conceived, right, Lizzie? Is that correct?
Yeah, 7 years. And I had a miscarriage before as well.
Incredible.
So my birth with this one, I decided I want to do a home birth. I had really bad morning sickness with this pregnancy. And so I did end up in the hospital to get fluids because I was super dehydrated. I could not stop throwing up, couldn't keep anything down. I didn't eat for about 2 weeks, literally. I had watermelon and that was it. So I was miserable in the hospital getting fluids. And I was like, I cannot deliver a baby here. There's no way. This is awful. And I decided I want to have a home birth. And I already knew of a midwife from you and from my chiropractor at the time. So I hired her. My husband was surprisingly on board. He was a little nervous, but my pregnancy went great. Besides the morning sickness, the last trimester, I felt so good. And I felt so laid back. I was so relaxed the whole pregnancy. I knew I was not even scared. I knew God had this baby in his hands. He was going to bring us a beautiful baby. My labor was about 27 hours long from the first contraction to having her. And later we found out that she was sunny side up, they called her. So she was a brow baby. So she came forward with her head like that. And so she was stuck at 9 centimeters for hours. And I was having a lot of back labor because of that. They said her spine was rubbing against mine. And so we were just pushing through the night, and I was so drained, and we had the tub all set up, couldn't use it because it got cold by then. Finally, my water broke at midnight, I think. And then I don't know. It was all a big blur because it was so long. And I ended up having her at 10:36 in the morning. And she ended up coming out, and she stopped breathing. or I don't know if she even ever started breathing, but she was turning blue. My midwife had to take her back from me, and she had to start resuscitating her. And it was 4 minutes exactly. She was like yelling at my mom to call 911. And she started compressions on her. She was doing suction on her. And I just looked at John and I was like, God's bringing her back. Don't even worry. Like, he's got her. And he said, he just kept looking at me and he kept praying, like, if you take anybody, take me, don't take her. And so she started breathing finally, and we heard her little cry, and it was so magical. And I remember the song, like, we had church playing in the background, like virtual, and the song playing was Turn Graves into Gardens. And so I just, like, the whole thing was just so beautiful, and I'll never forget it. It was so long and drawn out and so painful, but she was so worth it. She was just like our miracle baby. So
she was your miracle baby. I love sharing the story of your birth, Lizzie, because there's a lot of fear around home birth, and there's a lot of fear around what if something goes wrong. That's the biggest fear, right? And I think it's very common for women to be like, I want a home birth, and the husband to be like, I'm really nervous something's going to go wrong. And that's like totally valid, right? Because as women, we do way more research, typically, right? I'm being stereotypical here, but as women, the data does show that women are the medical decision makers in a household. We tend to do more research. We tend to be the ones like watching birth videos on YouTube and like all of the things, right? So we have the information, I guess you could say, to feel more comfortable, where dads like typically aren't doing those things at the same level of capacity, right? And so there's a lot of fear of like, what if something goes wrong? What if something goes wrong? And I mean, technically in your birth, like something did go wrong, right? Your baby was born and did not breathe for 4 minutes. And so I think this is just such a good demonstration of like good midwives are well trained to know when there's an issue and transfer if necessary, and how to handle an emergency situation like resuscitating your baby, saving your baby's life much in the same way that they would do that in the hospital, right? So I just think there's misconceptions around like if something like that happens at home, like we're doomed, right? But that's not the case. And so I just love to share your birth story because of that. Not that I wanted you to have to go through that. And I don't remember. I wish I could remember that day. Like I feel like I knew in that moment that was happening. Like I feel like your mom texted me in that 4 minutes. I don't remember exactly, but I feel like I knew in that moment what was happening. That could be incorrect. Maybe it was just really shortly after that, like moments after. But either way, I just think it's just like a beautiful demonstration of like, yes, like sometimes it's not picture perfect. And that's why you got to interview your midwife and make sure you got a really good one who's really experienced and has done these things and can save your baby, right? And also the grace of God.
She had her breathing before the paramedics got there. I mean, like I could see the sweat dripping down her face while she was working on her. And I thought like that lady is going to bring back my baby. I know she is. And yeah, by the time the paramedics got there, she was already breathing. I was holding her and they were like, do you want to go to the hospital? And I'm like, nope, I'm good. Ghost just laying on my floor.
Stay right here with my baby. You can leave now.
I was like, I'm not going to the hospital because they are going to wreck everything. That's what I thought.
And so I think this brings up another really good point, right, Lizzie? Because I think a lot of people, maybe not a lot of people, some people are going to listen to this and be like, oh my goodness, how negligent that your baby didn't breathe for 4 minutes and then you chose not to go to the hospital, right? But this is what we call informed consent. When the paramedics came to your house, you might not remember because you were like post 27-hour labor and your baby just didn't breathe for 4 minutes. But they gave you informed consent. They gave you the information that you need. Your midwife gave you the information that you need. This is what we can do. We can stay home and we can monitor, or we can go to the hospital and they're going to put her in the NICU and they're going to do all this monitoring and we're going to be in the system and blah, 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 right? But you had the information that you needed to make, you and Johnny, to make an informed decision in the moment. And that was your decision. And that's what it's about right there, is the ability to have a choice.
Yeah, I knew like she was still connected to my cord. She had oxygen through me. And after that, the best thing for her is to be with me on me healing, because she doesn't need to be taken to the hospital, like cord cut immediately and away from me while they're monitoring her. She needs to be with me. And like, that's just what I thought. I thought that's best for her. And so that's what I did. I thought they don't need to be taking her away. She's perfectly fine.
And I think this also demonstrates just another talking point that we have to consider when we're considering home birth. Because like, obviously, I don't know if we've talked very much about home birth on the show yet, but something that we obviously both really advocate for, right? I've had a hospital birth. I've had a home birth. You've had 2 home births, right, Lizzie?
Yeah.
Both babies were born at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so, teaser, because Lizzie went on to have another baby after that. But these are realities that we have to think about when we're choosing a home birth, right? If Freya would have had to go to the hospital, you would have had to go to the hospital too, and you wouldn't have had a room. So you would have been post 27-hour labor sitting in the NICU without a room because they wouldn't have given you a room. It's just part of the reality. Like, this is just part of the choice we're making. And this just demonstrates, again, informed consent, having all of the information, knowing what you need to know to make the best decision. Like, that's a risk. And it has to be a risk that you're willing to take. And I always say to women, like, you have to be so confident in the decision you make. Whatever we're talking about, right? You've heard me say this a million times at this point, Lizzie, like whether we're talking about a home birth or we're talking about vaccinating our kids or like whatever it is, you have to be so firm in your decision that no matter what happens, you don't look back and say, that's my fault because I made that decision, right? Like, you have to be so firm in your decision that you don't allow for that guilt to come in, right? So for example, like if you have a home birth and something happens, God forbid, which is incredibly rare, but it could, right? We have to be so rooted in the fact that we made that informed decision that we don't have guilt over that for ourselves. Like, oh, it's my fault because I made that decision, right? And on the reverse, like if we're in the hospital and we end up having a C-section, like we're induced and we have a C-section and we're like through this pressure situation, we have to just be like so confident in the decision that we know we wanted to birth in the hospital that like we know that could happen and we're going to be okay with it if that happens. Exactly. Always, right? There's no perfect place. Well, that was a tangent, but thanks for going on that tangent with me. Talk to me a little bit about just, I guess, our transition. Let's talk about our transition. So when did you start working with us? What year was that?
That was 2022.
22.
Yes.
Yeah.
22.
So a couple of years after Freya was born, we needed to add to our team, and Mindy, the other our like my OG employee, who's been with me since 2020. We kind of went back and forth, and I just like kind of this thing where everyone that I hire, I've like found them and asked them to work for me, or they found me and asked me if I was hiring, sort of situation. So we kind of went back and forth, and we just kind of were like, Lizzie would be great. Like, we need to get Lizzie to come work with us. Like, Lizzie would be such a perfect addition. And so we just kind of reached out, and I was like, hey, why don't you come join our team, right? And you were like, yeah, I saw you posting about it, and I'm kind of interested. So you joined our team in 2022, and we've had a lot of evolution in our process and our program since then. So, as we talked about, when Lizzie worked with us for fertility, it was a 12-week program just for her. Now our program is 12 months. We're working with the husband and the wife. How do you feel that your experience in our program like helps you to support our clients, to support our process, to support our team? How do you feel like those two work together?
I feel like I just bring in like a lot of the feelings of like I know what you're going through, and like I think I don't really interact with the girls a lot, but if I do, I'm always just kind of like a support. Like, I know what you're going through. I am always here to talk. One of the girls did reach out to me actually, and we spoke on the phone. And I loved that. I thought, I remember going through that, and I didn't really have anybody to talk to because I didn't know anybody who had been through that. And if I can just offer that to these girls, that they have somebody who they know has gone through it and has had success that they can talk to if they want to, that I'm just here. And I'm more than willing to talk and listen and just work through those emotions.
And you just bring such an inspiring, peaceful presence to the dynamic, right? I'm high energy. Like I'm like in everyone's face about everything, like not in a bad way, but like I'm high energy. I'm like passionate when I talk, right? And I just think like you just bring this peace and like this state of calm that's so important when we want them to be in a state of calm, right? What inspired you, Lizzie, when we reached out? What inspires you to say, yeah, like I do want to do that. Like I do want to go and work with them and support these women in this process.
Yeah, I already knew I was supposed to do it because I reached out the first time you were hiring and you had hired Mindy, which I'm so glad you did because Mindy is definitely the person that needed to be there. And then when I saw you hiring again, I was like, oh, wow, she's hiring again. Like, I'm really interested in that. And I was like, I don't know. I don't think I can make that work. And I just kind of let it go until you reached out to me. And I'm like, well, clearly I'm supposed to be in this position because I said no to God. And he's like, no, you're going to say yes. And I'm going to push it on you. And then another thing is when I talked to my husband about it, he was just like totally on board. And I was so shocked about that. Like, I didn't think he was going to be, but he was. He was like, well, you can't do both jobs. And I'm like, no, I can't do both jobs. And he was like, so, I don't know. I think this would be great for you. And I'm like, really? You do? And he's like, yeah, I do think this would be great for you. And I'm like, I do too. I feel like all I've ever said is I'm going through this for a reason because I'm going to help women one day who are also going through this. And if I help one person, it's going to be so worth it. Like that's what made it worth it to me is that I can be here helping other women go through it. And so after talking to you, I just knew I'm supposed to do this.
I think that's the beauty of so many of our coaches and part of our team is most of us have walked this journey, right? I walked this journey for 4 years. You walked through this journey. Some of our doctors have walked through this journey. Our coaches have walked through this journey, right? Like not every single person on the team, but the majority of us have walked through this journey. And I think just in healthcare in general, or like in naturopathic medicine, at least, a lot of us get where we are because of our own experience. Like if you pull 9 out of 10 naturopathic doctors and say, what got you into naturopathic medicine? Like they're all going to say my own health experience. I was super sick and no one could help me. And then I went to see a naturopath and I got better. And now here I am at ND school, like almost all of us. Right. So, I think that's part of the beauty of how we nurture our clients because we actually have been there. Like I actually do understand what it's like to walk through those shoes, right? And to be overlooked by your doctor and to go through all of that. What do you enjoy most about what you do with us?
Well, I love that I can do like this now. I can do it from home, which is awesome. But I just love the team. Like I really love working with all of you guys. And I love seeing those positive pregnancy announcements. Like when we had one of the clients share on our call the other day that she was pregnant and I could have cried because I was so excited. I'm like, I felt like it was me all over again getting that positive pregnancy. And that was so rewarding. I live for that. It was so awesome. I couldn't be happier.
For context for everyone listening, Lizzie is basically like our team assistant, if you will. She does lots of things for all of our coaching staff. So it is beautiful. Like you went from having to go to the hair salon and doing hair every day, right, to having 3 kids and being able to work from home and support our clients. And it was support our coaches so that we can support our clients really ultimately. And I think that is just like another example or reminder of like, we never know what the Lord is preparing us for, right? You would have never known 14 years ago when you started on this journey or 15 years ago, Lizzie, that like we would be here where we are doing what we're doing now. Like I wouldn't have known that either. Right. And so it's just a reminder that we never know what the Lord is preparing our hearts for. And it's going to be a beautiful journey. Like it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It's not supposed to be easy. Rarely in scripture is it ever easy, right?
We're always promised troubles. Like it's a given. It's going to be hard.
Exactly. And so if you're walking this journey, I just encourage you to like open your heart and remember like, you just don't know yet what God's preparing you for. And it's going to be something beautiful and it's going to be something great. And I can see that because most of our coaches have been through this. And now we have the ability to support hundreds of couples as they're walking through this journey as well. What excites you most, Lizzie, about what we're doing as a team collectively? Like what excites you the most about the fertility formula, our mission, what we're doing?
I love seeing us grow. I'm always in shock every day at like how much we grow every day. And even just from like last year sitting in our office in Romeo, like I can't believe where we are today, just 1 year later. And I just love seeing that and helping other women to see that like you don't have to go the traditional Western medicine route. You don't have to do that. You don't have to put yourself through that stress. It's awful and it's miserable. And there's a whole nother way and you'll feel totally supported. I think it's just, you just feel better through the process. As hard as it is, like it's still going to be hard. It's always hard, but why make that harder on yourself? You know, and I think that's my favorite thing. So, about working with you guys.
If someone's listening to this, and they've been eyeing us and they're thinking like, oh, maybe I want to work with them, but they're still kind of on the fence. Like, what would you say? What would you say to somebody on the fence about jumping in with 2 feet?
I would say, like, what do you have to lose? Like, you want a baby and you can either sit back and wait or you just jump in and, you know, like I thought when I first started the program, I'm going to be my healthiest self and I'm going to do it the natural way. And the outcome is going to be that I am healthy for any future children that I have. And at the end of that, if it comes a baby, then that's wonderful. And if not, I'm okay with that because I think that we're all where we're supposed to be for a reason. And God puts us in the places that we need to be. And maybe you meet somebody in this journey that like you're supposed to be in that place for somebody else. And like maybe it's not even for yourself, but like maybe for somebody else, you're in that space. And that's exactly where you're supposed to be. And maybe that's a stepping stone to somewhere else that you're supposed to be. Like I think we're always in like little stepping stones to where we're supposed to be because there is no like one grand, like, and you know what I mean? So I would say, what do you have to lose? Like if you want a baby, then why not just go for it?
And truthfully, if we can just be really blunt, like what other options do you have? If you don't want to go the route of the conventional fertility model, if you don't want to take those drugs and feel terrible, if you don't want to do IUI or IVF for ethical reasons or moral reasons, like what else are you going to do? Right. And yeah, there are other similar programs to ours, but a lot of them, are preparing you to go back to IUI or IVF. So like they're taking a holistic approach and then they're saying like, okay, you're ready, go do your IVF now and you're going to be more successful. And like, yeah, if you do our program and then go to IVF, you're probably going to be way more successful than if you don't do our program and go to IVF. But that is not the goal. Like we do not support IVF here. I think that we're pretty clear about that. But, so, and if you don't choose to move forward, right? If this opportunity is presented to you and you don't choose to move forward, what are the chances you're going to be in the same boat a year from now? And we see this, right? We'll have conversations with people and then they come back a year later and we're like, oh my gosh, like you could be pregnant by now. And at the same time, like it has to be God's timing, right? And maybe it's just not good timing. And that's okay. Like our door is always open to anyone that we ever speak with. But I think it's just like a good reminder of like, sometimes we just choose to stay stuck. And I was chatting with a potential client on the phone a few weeks ago, and the husband and wife, I don't know, one of them told me a story. It's quick. It was something to the effect of like, there was a man and he was in the water and he was drowning and he was like crying out to the Lord, like, why don't, like, save me, save me, save me. And the Lord said, I sent you 4 boats and you didn't choose to get in. Like, I tried to save you. And I just thought that was so good. And I've never heard this story before, but it must be a common story because I mentioned it to someone else and they said, oh, I've heard that story before. But I thought, oh, that's just like such a good reminder, right? Because sometimes I think in this fertility situation, we just say like, it's just in God's hands. I'm just waiting on God's timing. If God wants this to happen, it's going to happen. And like, yes, I agree. There's validity in that, right? But at the same time, like, if you want to get a job, you can't just like sit on the couch and hope the job is going to happen. You have to go out and put your resume in and apply and go to interviews. Like, you have to take steps to get the job, right? And it's the same thing in this fertility situation is you can't just sit here and like hope it's going to happen. You might have to put some effort in and put one foot in front of the other and use the tools that the Lord has put in front of your face or in front of your hands, right? To be able to heal your body and to move forward. So
yeah, like he calls us to action, and he's not telling us just to sit around and wait for it. Like, we still have to do the work.
Yeah, exactly. There's a story that you tell, Lizzie, about an elephant.
Mm-hmm.
Will you tell the story? I think it's just so good. And then we'll wrap up after that.
Yeah, this was my, this is what got me through. And it was a poem that I found. I was just searching for like motivational stuff. And the poem is about an elephant and a dog, and they are both pregnant at the same time. And the dog goes on to have her litter of puppies, and the elephant is still pregnant. And the dog goes on to have several more litters of puppies. And she's constantly asking the elephant, why have you not had your baby by now? Like, are you not having a baby? I've had so many litters of puppies and you still don't have a baby yet. And the elephant says to the dog that my baby will shake the earth when it comes, and it will be so great that it needed this time. And when it comes, it will shake the earth. And I thought like that it was just so inspirational for me. And when we got Connor, that's how that felt. Like, I didn't even have him myself biologically, but when he came, he literally like shook our family. Like, everybody who sees him just loves him. Like, he's such a happy person, and he just like, he totally rocked our world. And I thought like, that's so amazing. Like, that's what I feel my story is. And that's why it's taking me so long. And I'm just going to sit here and I'm just going to wait on his time, because when my baby comes, like, he's going to be great and he's going to rock our world. And that I sent that to so many people, hoping that they would feel the same inspiration from that I did.
Yeah. And that's exactly what Connor did. He rocked your world, which is beautiful.
Sure.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight, Lizzie. We're recording this at 8:00. It's 9:00 now at night. We should be in our pajamas in bed, but we had to find time to come hang out and record this episode for you guys between all the other things that we got going on. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight, Lizzie. Thanks for staying up late to be here with me. Thank you for sharing your story and your birth story. I just really appreciate it. And I know that it's going to touch the lives of a lot of women when they take a listen to this. So thank you again for being here with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was really great to share my story.
Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, Lizzie. And I hope that you all were able to take away a golden nugget from our conversation tonight. Be sure to share with a friend if you know someone struggling with infertility and you feel like this might touch them. Just send this podcast along to them. I'm sure they would enjoy listening to our conversation, and I will catch you on the next one. Thanks for hanging out with me on today's episode of Prescribing the Truth. If you loved our chat, you can find me on all the socials. Come say hi on Instagram at dr.NicholeMorris. And don't forget, I drop exclusive content on YouTube every week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Also, I've got to tell you, if you are in need of high-quality, research-backed supplements, check out shopdrmorris.com for my full line of third-party tested, USA-made products. My Prenatal Plus is top of the line for fertility support, and if you've got little ones, grab a bottle of Kids Complete too. Lastly, if you and your husband are trying to conceive naturally without IUI or IVF, my team and I would love to support you, pray with you, and walk this journey with you. Just head over to drnicholемorris.com. That's That's Dr. Nichole Morris, Nichole with an H, to book a preconception consultation with me. Thanks for joining me today. Stay informed and God bless.